Japan. Two color palettes and Junji Ito. When on their own, I personally consider this to be the telling signs that a poser is about to say something stupid.
It's about a brother and a sister that fuck.
But when combined, I've learned that it's because you're about to stare at one of the finest products of modern indie horror right in the eyes. World of Horror. In World of Horror, you can play as any one of these dandy characters: criminals, students, an idol, and a photographer. None of them are particularly heroic, but they're all determined investigators who are about to be thrust into a hellish series of events at your demand for entertainment. Taking place in a nondescript city in coastal Japan, you'll be able to flavor your nightmare however you want. You got your standard randomization shit, seeds, difficulty, but here's the real cool part of it. You get to choose which god is looking for a fresh world to fuck over. Each god has their own effect on your playthrough, and they are, in no particular order, Kthak Adorasu, the hungry spider god that wants to eat this entire reality because it has a severe case of compounded bulimia plus anorexia. This guy makes it so that you can't escape from combat encounters, so when this guy is around, you have to nut up or shut up. Zombie land. Ithotu, the devouring fire, the real reason why the Library of Alexandria got burnt. Sorry Roman Empire haters, but turns out it was a crazy black marble statue all along. This massive revelation stirs up all the hatreds in people, making all sources of damage, including your own, inflict even more damage. Ath-Julast, the Towering Eye, also known as Discount Sinch, the god of wizardry and knowledge or some shit like that. This guy makes it so that casting spells doesn't turn you insane, but rather it makes his approach even quicker, so if you pick this guy, don't use any spells if you know what's good for you. And lastly, Goizo, the thing forgotten by God. Some dark scary creature that lives in the darkness within mirrors, and increases the doom you receive from wasting time resting, so don't screw around while this guy is on watch. All of these gods are fucking badass, and I love them. Love their portrayal, love their selection screen theme, and I love that there's a bunch more gods that aren't unlocked when you first start playing. The methods to unlock them are pretty esoteric in some cases, which just adds to the mystery of it all. Once your character, difficulty, god, and seed are selected, it's finally time to play the epic fucking game. But what the fuck is this shit? This looks like a fucking Facebook game. Mafia Wars had more interactable shit than this. That's right, mi boyos. World of Horror takes a page out of oldie type games by letting things play out in menus. You won't see any Devil May Cry super moves here. You're not here to pull off a mega combo, you're here to slowly unravel a mystery. So stop being a little bitch about it and go to your apartment, select your outfit, maybe take a bath, and select a mystery. Just for those of you who want to check out this game, I'll play a cute little case for you guys. Another more interactive one. I'll play the funeral shit in house smell of milk mysterious corpse mystery. The mystery starts, and sadly, someone I know already died. My granduncle or some shit. Never knew the guy, but seemingly he knew me enough to invite me to his funeral. I head to the place, and I can already tell this is gonna be a shit show. It's a big house, a big empty house at that, and some buff guy tells me that I should check out my dear old uncle's body on his master bedroom. After a quick surprise scuffle with Patrick, I find my deceased uncle's body laying on the floor with a tarp on top like it's left for dead. Fucked up, ain't it? Then this Amelie looking chick gives me a pamphlet. The old man was very spiritual. There's instructions on how he'd like his vigil to go. Being the little shithead that I am, I decide to have my young Sheldon moment and blast this spiritual sheep with some peer-reviewed knowledge and logic by doing exactly the opposite of what the ritual says. After a few more hours of exploring and disrespecting my deceased family, I go back to the master bedroom to find out that the dear corpse is gone. Not only that, everyone else is gone. A few more hours exploring and I find the buff guy looking not so hot and the Amelie chick not so great. Quick note, I was just planning to gather footage for this specific case just for this video, but at this point I got an event which gave me a badass fucking sword, so I went ahead and played the entire thing. After I added 2 bodies to my tally with my new epic blade, turns out that the old man knew more than I thought. Suddenly, the place we're on isn't quite as familiar, and with no option other than to click the only clickable button, I kill some random person I haven't the slightest clue about who they were.
Knowledge.
A couple of hours later I wake up. The old man is standing on top of me, naked. It was all a ruse to revive himself, and since I already fucked up and now I'm a murderer, I go back home and call the whole situation foobar. Many of these mysteries play out very similarly, which isn't so much of a complaint as much as it is an observation. As with the whole randomization, cool writing, artwork and atmosphere, it's not that big of a hassle. Plus, there's a few mysteries with their own unique mechanics which spice things up a bit. I already mentioned this before, but if I had to start listing things that aren't so cool about this game, it's the myriad of menus and menus, which isn't a bad thing so much as it is a stylistic choice, which may drive people away. But if you stick with it and just play for a bit, you'll learn that all these numbers and letters are really simple to understand, and maybe you won't even interact with all of these screens at every given time. All in all, World of Horror is a pretty cool game. There's eldritch horror, there's mysterious cases to be solved, the people solving them aren't your Dantes or Nathan Drakes, but they put in the effort, which makes managing a victory over a creature that's older than time itself all the more satisfying, if you ever manage to do that, that is. All of this sounds pretty cool, eh? I can hardly think of any game that even has this type of gameplay loop, approach, or even style. Wrong? Borat? The Consuming Shadow. I'm not gonna say that the World of Horror devs were inspired by this game, but if they said so, I wouldn't be surprised. This is it before it was it, my dude. Playing as a man who lives somewhere in the United Kingdom and assaulted by nightmares and prophetically apocalyptic visions of a future that brings impending and absolute annihilation, you decide not to vote on Brexit at all, only to find out that there's going to be an eldritch invasion, and, armed with heroin, a pistol that you had to assemble from pieces you gave to your 5 friends, and bullets so ridiculously expensive you might as well forget the thought of ever using them, this game is proof that if it was left in the hands of a UK everyman, the world would be rightfully fucked. But enough jokes, because this isn't one. Your dreams have been telling you that there's 3 gods at play in the coming apocalypse. One who wants to invade our reality, the other who wants to help them, and the other who wants to impede them, not because he's kind or anything, but because he has his own nefarious reasons. Still, enemy of my enemy and all that shit. It's up to you to travel a rapidly decaying southern UK and figure out the appropriate ritual words and the true name of this invading god in order to bring their sycophants' ambitions to an end. In your trusty car, you'll have to travel up and down between localities. Support is almost null and hope is in short supply. However, if you stick with it, don't lose your mind and manage, by the end you'll have spared our world a reality which is far worse than human minds can describe. What a hero. The game itself is pretty short, which is cool because you're supposed to get multiple playthroughs in order to progress. It is a roguelike game after all, so you're supposed to fuck up, die, buy some meta power-ups, and then try again with renewed strength and knowledge about shit you didn't know about.
Knowledge.
It's a lot simpler than World of Horror, which isn't exactly a dig at the game itself, but more of a comment on how standards on the amount of content that's expected of an indie game has changed with the passage of years. There is character selection, each one having their own weaknesses and strengths, and with the start of each playthrough, you can play around with your zodiac in order to gain some pretty useful statistic bonuses. With this, you can vastly increase your chances of actually making it through your playthrough. Personally, I just like to max out melee damage and slaughter my way through the world, but that's just because I'm pretty adverse to new tactics. And what better way to show off this game than to tell you how an average playthrough goes. In this case, I'll be playing as the Ministry Man. With a high amount of funds, most of the banishment ritual unlocked, and only a single day to discover the invading god's name, you've got resources but not time. We're pretty close to Stonehenge, which is where the big evil is happening, and our first order of business is to patrol the surrounding localities. We don't got much time, so after a quick visit to the store for some bullets and a bulletproof vest, I'm ready to start making some questions. I head to Castleforth to check out how the locals are doing, and after finding out a local commotion, I head for a nearby home where a party seems to have gone wrong, sexual style. This is where I entered the first dungeon of the playthrough. This is where most of the gameplay happens, exploring derelict and otherwise abandoned places with a combat system that's a bit meh, but with an atmosphere that is pretty impressive for a 2D Flash looking game. After an unfortunate run-in with one of the hostages I was supposed to rescue, the dungeon is complete, which means I better hightail it out of here. A bit late to mention this, but during these dungeons is where you will mainly get everything. From ammo to funds to items and clues. Even if you don't find any of these, the game will at least reward you forcefully by the end of that dungeon with a clue if you didn't find any in a natural spawn. And so the gameplay loop repeats itself. You go around the country helping people wherever you can, hoping that you'll get all the necessary clues to save the world by the end of it through pure holistic entropy. The game provides you with a neat little table to calculate who exactly the invading god is. By the end of it, I didn't have the slightest idea who this god was or even his name, but I thought I had enough to make an educated guess. So, armed with nothing but confidence in my guessing skills, I headed for Stonehenge and uttered the words. I'm not going to show the entirety of the ending, even though I just kinda did, partly because it ruins some of the fun, but I am going to tell you that the ending I got is just one of many, and given enough preparation and dedication, you could probably get a much better ending than mine. All of that useless, superfluous and irrelevant information takes me to the last part of my video. Should you buy World of Horror or The Consuming Shadow? Like always, I'm gonna work off the USD price, which is 20 bucks for World of Horror and only 99 pennies for The Consuming Shadow. Funny how both of these games went through price changes fairly close to each other, one going way up and the other going way down. Now, if I had to recommend one to buy over the other, I'd recommend going for World of Horror first. It's the newer of the two, with more content and a prettier look, along with having a cool modding scene which of course immediately makes its value go up considerably. Not to be mean to Mr. Fedora Man, but that's just the way it is. Newer games are more attractive than older ones. It is the way it is. Still, I wouldn't buy it without a discount. 20 bucks seems like a bit much to a third worlder like me. If you're really hype, then 15 bucks should be fine. If it were up to me, I wouldn't pay more than 12 bucks for this. Having said that, if you've got a couple of cents from selling all your CSGO cosmetics, I definitely recommend you buy The Consuming Shadow. The price is absolutely fucking ridiculously low, even without a discount, and it's a cool insight onto the earlier depictions of eldritch, roguelike horror in indie games. Plus, it takes place in a cool western part of the world, and not in the uwu kawaii mahjong Edo aesthetics breakcore Japan that World of Horror takes place in, which counts as a plus in my book. So yeah, buy World of Horror if you want the current thing, but also definitely check out The Consuming Shadow for an experience that is similar but unique, along with being really cheap. Your dreams have been telling you that there's 3 gods at play in the coming apocalypse. Apocalypse.